Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Alex Cook. So this is going to be a new podcast where I'm going to talk about some lessons that I might be able to give to future platoon leaders in the Army specifically. So I'm in the Army, but maybe if you're in another branch of service, this might be useful to you as well. So when you go through your commissioning source and then your functional training after that. So in the Army, I went through OCS, then I branched engineer, became an engineer officer, and then I went to engineer BOLC, the basic officer leadership course. For that, you learn a lot of things, but there's some things that you don't really learn until you get to the line. And you don't know that until you're actually on the job. There's always sort of that wisdom that you get at the unit, and some of that is what I am trying to impart to you in this video. So this video, another title for it might be What You Were Not Told in BOLC. So some of this maybe could help set you up for success. So once you get to your unit, once you get to your line, meaning once you're actually PL, hopefully you go straight to PL and you have to wait on staff, but let's just say you could be somewhat less lost of a new lieutenant than you would be otherwise. So hopefully this is informative. So a little background on myself. I'm a captain in the U.S. Army. I was, I am an engineer officer, but my first real job was I was the medic PL because our engineer battalion, we were not a MTOD, medical services officer, so I was filling in that role. And then I was a 12 Bravo platoon leader. So I was platoon leader for combat engineers, sappers. After that, I was the XO for headquarters company, and now I'm our battalion, or we call it a squadron, plans officer. So that's a little background on myself. So I had 2 platoons, then I was an XO, and now I'm on staff time after that as well. So I'm going to skip some of the basics. I'm going to skip some of the stuff that you've already heard a million times. Like, I'm not going to tell you be in shape because you should know that already. Or I'm not going to tell you stuff like, listen to your NCOs, because not that that's bad advice. Just you've heard that a million times already. I'm trying to give you guys the things that you were maybe not really told in OCS or ROTC, West Point, whatever the case might be. The little lessons that you don't really learn until you get to your unit. So I'm going to skip that. I'm going to assume that's already a baseline. Like you should already know to be in shape and have general people skills. So I'm also going to share at the end the 3 dumbest things that I've ever done in the Army, just so you know, look, you can bounce back from some mistakes too. Just don't make any mistakes that you cannot recover from. Like, don't make any mistakes that are, unethical or illegal. Don't make those kind of mistakes. But otherwise, everyone makes mistakes. So I'm going to share with you the 3 dumbest things that I've done in the Army if you want to stick through this to the end. So I'm going to give you 10 lessons that I think new lieutenants and incoming PLs should know. So lesson number 1, learn property and maintenance. All right, this is something that is just frankly wasn't really covered in OCS or BOLC. If it was like a little PowerPoint slideshow. Look, people learn by doing. So, if cadre are watching this, I would highly suggest, like, okay, go through the regulations. Like, that stuff's great too, but if we want to teach property maintenance, like, let's take people actually down to the motor pool and let's have them lay out a Humvee, a JLTV, an LMTV, Striker, whatever. Let's have them actually lay it out, go through what that process looks like line it up to the bomb, make sure we have everything, and go through a PMCS. Have them go through a PMCS with the TM. Like, that is how you learn property and maintenance. Have them go through the muscle movements of signing this down, notionally to their squad leader. And if what I just said made no sense to you, if you're a brand new lieutenant or you're still a cadet, that's totally fine. But some of this, I'm throwing out a lot of terms, just look it up. But these are the things you need to learn. You will need to learn how to PMCS a vehicle. Now, you won't necessarily be the one doing the PMCS. It'll be one of your operators, but you're responsible for your platoon's maintenance. Like, the buck stops with you. Like, just like an XO, the buck stops with him or her for the company. The buck stops with you for your platoon. So you need to know what right looks like because, well, sometimes your soldiers won't know what right looks like. Or sometimes they'll try to cut corners if they think they can pull a fast one on you and, hey, here's the 5988, no new faults. And it turns out it's broken and you don't find that out until you actually go out to the field and none of your stuff works. All right, I'm trying to avoid that pain for you. So that's lesson number 1, learn property and maintenance. And, don't assume your outgoing PL knows what he or she is doing when it comes to supply. Like, don't just trust him on this one that, hey, my books are squared away, just go ahead and sign for everything. No. Know what right looks like, know how the supply system works. If you got any questions, talk to your supply sergeant, talk to your XO, talk to other PLs, talk to other XOs, talk to people that came off the line or on staff now. Learn, someone knows the answers, talk to them, get the right answers before you sign for anything. So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is, look, I didn't realize this. Like, I heard this in OCS, but it really hit home once I got my first PL position as a medic PL. you're always being watched and evaluated. Like, seriously, I heard that as like one little line from our senior trainer. I didn't really know what that meant, but look, literally everything you do is being watched by your guys. Seriously, like they found my YouTube channel before. I mean, my YouTube channel isn't necessarily like big. Like it's bigger than what it was. Back then I had, maybe 1,000 subscribers, maybe less, but like they will find it. So, if you got something that is on social media, like just expect them to see it. So, just make sure you're representing yourself well. I mean, you should be doing that anyways, but just realize that you are always being watched and evaluated. So just keep that in mind. All right, lesson number 3 is know when you're getting a BS story. So this requires a little common sense and, trusting your sort of gut feeling judgment on things. But, a lot of times things are drilled into you over and over, listen to your NCOs. And I'd say 99% of the time, that's great because they've been around the block. They work with soldiers a lot. They know what right should look like. But sometimes you get that 1% of the guy that sort of slipped through the cracks, maybe in the promotion system. And I hate to say that. I hate to say that, but look, I got to give you guys the real deal. I got to give you guys the real deal here. And I'm trying to help you guys avoid some pain here. So know when you're getting a BS story. And some of this is purely just common sense. I'm not talking about like, go find a Kim Light battery because, you already told all those jokes in OCS. So, I mean, hopefully you got a bit more common sense than that, but just know when you're kind of getting the runaround. So I'll get to that when I get to the 3 dumbest things that I've done in the Army, but just keep that in mind. All right, lesson number 4. This relates to that is don't let people step on your lane. So chain of command is a thing for a reason, and I'll talk about that. So an S3 staff captain or any type of staff officer, like they should not be giving instructions directly to PLs. Like that is not how this works. So I got a story from this is I was tasked to run a range. Okay. I got pulled off that task because I was being sent to a school, R2C2, the Route Reconnaissance and Clearance Course. All meanwhile, in this time, there was an S3 officer trying to give me very specific instructions on how to run this range. And I was like, sir, this should be going to my company commander because, that's how it should be going. Because, look, you have a boss. You have a raider. Your raider has a raider. So that means you have a senior raider. That is how these things work in order so things are deconflicted, so that ammo is going through one way, so that reserving land is going through one channel. Make sure that having NCOs to be safeties or your RSO for your range, that like this is being handled on, within a certain paradigm, and it's not just being, run all over the place. And this S3 captain, I'm sure he was trying to do the best he could, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. Like if a staff officer is trying to give specific instructions, or you'll get this number of times, like, hey, this is put out in order. Really? What was it? Like read the orders. Like if it was not put out in an order, and if someone's trying to tell you, hey, this is coming from the top. Really? Now people will do this to try to cover their own end. Again, I hate to say that sometimes, but I'm just trying to give you guys a real deal here so that when you're a brand new lieutenant and you don't know any better, you don't kind of know what the office culture is like, that you're prepared. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you, but I'm just saying, like, don't let people step on your lane. Don't try to fight it necessarily. Like, I'm not saying, hey, go walk into a field grades office and like shoot it out with them. Like, okay, have some common sense. Obviously, treat people with the proper customs and courtesies. But, when you run into conflicts like this, just take it to your commander. Just take it to your commander. Let him or her be the one who fights it out. But use that to deconflict things so that people are not stepping on your lane. All right, lesson number 5, also related note, is know doctrine and regulations. You got to know this stuff. And I'm not saying this just to be like super hoo-ah, like, oh yeah, read doctrine. Look, I mean, you should be doing that just like as a professional, but where it really comes into play is, this is how when someone's giving you a BS story. I heard a lot when I was running ranges, like I'd hear something that just doesn't quite make sense, and I'd be told, well, that's how Fort Hood does things. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like, where's the actual Fort Hood regulation where it says that? Like, where is the actual AR regulation, or where does it actually say in the training circular where it says that? Because what you're saying doesn't make any sense. What was put out? No, it wasn't. Like, okay, here's how things are put out. Either Department of the Army puts it out like an actual doctrinal publication, or someone with command authority, meaning commanding is on the bottom line of their signature block, put it out in an order or a policy memorandum. If that is not the case, it is not a thing. So again, if you need to, take it up to your commander and have him or her fight it out, like if you want to go that route. But just know your doctrine regulations so that when you're getting, when you're getting BS, you can reply with the truth. Okay, if that makes sense. So that's lesson number 5. Know your doctrines and regulations. All right, lesson number 6 is, learn how to figure things out. Things are going to go wrong, and you're going to have to sometimes make the best of bad situations. So, look, you're not going to get selected for a deployment that you wanted. Okay, happened. Okay, you're not going to get filled to MTO for the right amount of NCOs that you're supposed to have. Okay, happened. All right, you're going to plan a really badass like squad sticks with a demo range, but the weather is going to be bad, or you're going to have a problem with ammo, or you're going to light the Curry demo range on Fort Hood on fire with a shape charge. There's only like 30 pounds of explosive, but it set off all the dried grass, and it just whooshed like a wildfire. And then about an hour later, Blackhawks are overhead dumping water on your range, and you're having a really awkward conversation with your XO because your commander's on leave, like, hey man, yeah, about that training we were doing. Yeah, that happened. So look, things are going to go wrong. You need to figure out how to work on the fly, how to make things work. Because Colin Powell had a great saying that, like, no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to need to learn how to deal with it. I didn't get picked up for deployment because they only sent about half the brigade, or we called it a regiment. So how to figure something out. What are we going to do at home station? So I use that opportunity to go to air assault school. I use that opportunity to, work on other things. But, things are going to go wrong. You got to figure out how to deal with it. Like, there's no other place you're going to learn this besides this in the Army. Like, I worked in the business world for 7 years before I got here. I did not get the kind of leadership, like no BS, like chaotic experience that I did now. Sometimes it sucks. Like, no one ever gets done with like staff duty on a weekend shift or something crazy like that, or like that crazy demo range. Like, man, that was awesome. But nonetheless, like, there's little lessons that you take away from it. So just keep that in mind. Like, learn how to figure things out. All right, lesson number 7 is you need to take ownership of your career. So I got a specific example that I'll get into, and that'll kind of weave into a story. So this was when I was getting towards the end of my time as an XO, and I was kind of wondering what job they're going to put me in next. What I wanted to do was be our squadron or battalion in common parlance. I wanted to be our plans officer. I thought there's a lot of value I could bring to the table. I also wanted a bit more tactical experience because my platoon leader time, like I said, it wasn't picked up for that deployment. So I felt like I kind of missed out on some of the tactical side of things that I wanted. But I was thinking that might also slot me for the maintenance control officer position, which you can actually learn a lot about supply chains and things like that if you want to go to that career later. I didn't. That's not really the career path for me. My ideas are different. So if you're a logistician, that might be like a fantastic job. Just it wasn't for me. So I had a conversation with our battalion, or again we called it a squadron, our XO at the time, about, hey, what's next for me? And he said, well, we think about putting you in the MCO position, and kind of presented, hey, here's why I think I could bring value to the table. I mean, look, I'll do whatever job you send me, sir. Like, I will do that to the best of my ability, but here's where I think I could bring some value to the table for the squadron plans officer position. And he said, oh, okay, good point. Good point. We kind of thought you'd like the MCO position. I'm like, no, sir. Not really what I was looking for. But the thing is, he didn't know. Like, he thought he was doing me a solid by slotting me for that when actually I want a different path. So sometimes, like, if you don't have those conversations, like, they're not going to know. And sometimes, like, you're going to get a job that you don't want, and that's just the Army for you. So in that case, again, just goes back to lesson number 6, like, learn how to figure it out. Like, I am not a med services officer, but I learned how to be the medic PL. Like, you sometimes just got to figure it out. And that actually was a really fun job. If you're an engineer officer and your battalion doesn't have a meadow, I would say, hey, maybe you could do that job. Like, that would probably be more developmental to you as a new platoon, as a new lieutenant, than just sitting on staff waiting for your 12 Bravo or 12 November platoon. So number 7, take ownership of your career, because honestly, no one else is going to do that. Broadening assignments, anything like that, like, that's on you. Like, that is on you to make those connections to HRC or whatever else. Like, that is on you. Lesson number 8 is soak in as much as you can about leadership. So, one of the great things about the Army is you're going to see a lot of different leadership styles. So I would say try to take all this and make something of your own from it. Like, you don't need to copy your OCS instructors or your BOLC instructors, ROTC, or, whatever you did beforehand, West Point. But, you can make something from it of your own that's congruent to your style. One of the things that's interesting is, when you see all these different types of leaders, some you could say, yeah, I definitely want to be like that. And some you could say, nope, I don't want to be like that guy at all. So, you can learn sometimes even from some of the ones that are not so good in a way that it's like, hey, when I'm in that kind of position, that's not what I want to do. So again, look, I got a bit of perspective because I joined at age 29, not like most people joining the Army fresh out of college on the officer side. So I had some experience in the business world. And again, I just straight up was not getting that kind of leadership experience beforehand. So this was new to me. And, nothing teaches leadership like actually doing it. Like, beforehand, like I read, a bunch of the books. I read the Harvard Business Review articles, stuff like that. Like, the John Maxwell books. Look, that stuff's great, but you don't really learn leadership until you actually do that. I just wasn't getting before the business world. So even if you don't want to make a career out of this, just try to soak it all up because that is just a great skill to have. Number 9 is, look, be relatable. You realize you got soldiers from all different walks of life. There's no need to act like you're important than more important than you really are. Like, you got soldiers from all different walks of life. They're going to have different interests. Some of these interests might not be your interests, but if they're talking about it, then it's important to them. So I'd say, look, even if it's not really your thing, listen to what they have to say. Another thing I'd say is don't be that guy. If you don't know what I mean by that guy, it's you. So great example of what that guy is I was in air assault school, and we had this one guy who kept going off about blah, 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 kids these days are soft, blah, blah, blah. So first of all, this guy's only been in for 5-6 years. Okay, so it's not like, he was freaking kicking in doors in Nam or something. He wasn't even in that long. And by the way, he also failed air assault school. So who knows? Maybe the kids these days are soft, but they're still harder than he is. Lesson number 10, just kind of close this one out, is I'd say stay in touch with people. And the reason why I say that is you're going to meet a lot of people from, your commissioning source, OCS, ROTC, whatever, your BOLC, or, once you actually get your unit, people that PCS out before you, you really meet a lot of cool people in this organization. And, some of them I haven't really done the best job of staying in touch with. And that's something I'm trying to do better at. But you can really build a great network from this. And the military really is well represented on Wall Street. If you want to go that route later, and, other areas of business, it's well represented, MBA programs. So, stay in touch with people because you really do build a great network from this. All right, so lastly, I promised you I would give you the 3 dumbest things that I've done in the Army. So in order, number 3 is I bought a BS story. So I talked about that a bit earlier, but specifically, this is when I was a medic platoon leader. I was like, hey, where's our counseling packets? I want to take a look at it. I want to know what's going on with our soldiers. Where's the counselings? And the response I got was, yeah, I think the counselings, they're in a binder somewhere. We got to go look for it. I'm like, okay, let me know when you find it. So a couple of days go by, I kind of forget about it, working on other things. Hey, do we find the counselings? Oh yeah, man, I think Sergeant said it was in a binder somewhere. I don't know if we can really find the binder. It took me a while to realize that what this really meant is that counselings don't exist and that we are not squared away when it comes to counselings. And unfortunately, you have this kind of situation pop up sometimes. What they're trying to do, it's a cover the rent sort of thing. It's easier to say that than, hey, we just got busy with op tempo and we didn't do it. It's easier for them to say that. So what I said is, look, I don't care what happened before, but just by Friday, before out of here, everyone gets counseled. And that was that. Problem fixed. But just, sometimes you'll hear these stories. It's because they don't want to get in trouble. It's like, look, whatever happened beforehand, that's done. But before we get out of here, everyone's counseled. We're going to start fresh. All right, so the number 2 dumbest thing that I did in the Army is this is my LT got lost moment. So this is where LT got lost on the land nav course. So I made a total LT meme right here of LT getting lost. I wrote down the wrong grid. So this is at point number 6. So we have to find 6 out of 8 points. So if I found this point, I would have been good, but I didn't. So had to retest, which I passed then. But what happened was I wrote down the wrong grid. So I faithfully went to the grid that I wrote down. I found that spot. It just turned out to be an entire grid square off. So I'm off by an entire kilometer of where I should be. So instead of being at the point and just being done with it, or going on to the other 2 points for extra credit, I'm stomping around in this muddy creek by a water treatment plant, which smells just lovely. Yeah, I'm just stomping around in the water. Like, where is it? It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Cadre's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to find the point. So yeah, that day sucked. Eventually I figured out what went wrong. It's like, okay, yeah, just double check the points before you start, Leroy Jenkinsing through the woods of Fort Leonard Wood. So figured it out when I retested. I was fine. But yeah, that was my LT got lost story. All right, the number one dumbest thing that I've done in the Army. Don't do this. Don't do this. Like, seriously, don't take pre-workout before a PT test. All right, don't do it. For real, don't do it. Like, I was doing good on the push-ups. In fact, I was like, oh man, I'm killing it. I'm just like ripping through these push-ups. I get to the sit-ups, feeling good. Actually feeling a little cramped, but whatever. Start the run. First like quarter mile in, I'm like, yeah, I'm just cruising through this. About 3/4, I'm like, man, I'm just feeling a little weird. The turnaround point, because it's like the run down a mile, run back a mile kind of PT test. I'm like, man, I'm just feeling weird. I don't know what it is. And then by that last half mile back in, I'm just glad I passed. That was painful. Seriously, don't take pre-workout before a PT test. Like before this new test, the ACFT, yeah, you might die. Don't take pre-workout before PT test. So look, point being is, look, everybody makes mistakes. Some mistakes are funnier than others. Got to laugh at yourself sometimes. I mean, it's just like the new lieutenant kind of thing. But don't make any mistakes that you can't recover from. All right, don't make any mistakes that are unethical or illegal, or anything where you're putting yourself in front of your soldiers, or you're putting your own needs in front of the needs of your soldiers. Like this is not about you. This is about your guys. This is about taking care of your unit. So you can recover from small mistakes. LT is going to get lost. All right, your comms are going to go down on a field exercise. All right, land and ammo is going to screw up your range. All right, maintenance is going to be a problem. Okay, you can recover from these if you put the right work in. Just don't make any mistakes that you cannot recover from. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really curious what you think. If you have been in a PL position, if you have any other advice you might be able to input. Definitely curious too that I know some NCOs watch my channel too. So I am very curious from the NCO side of the fence. If you have any advice you could give maybe to platoon leaders, one when they're starting out, or new lieutenants in general. Definitely want to hear from the NCOs too. So hope you enjoyed this. YouTube, Spotify, going to try to move on to some other platforms as well, but going to try to get on all the major podcast platforms. Just sometimes these things take time, but hit me up on Telegram. That is my discussion group. So let me know what you guys think, and thanks for tuning in.